So how does a modern terror plot really work? Well, forget the dry government reports. We're going to go inside a classic thriller that breaks down, with pretty terrifying clarity, the mechanics of an attack and, maybe more importantly, the systemic failures that make it all possible.
And to kick things off, just listen to this quote. It's from a national security hearing, and Dr. Ivan Bennett is talking about a threat that's so sneaky, so hard to defend against, that really, once you know it exists, all you can do is worry. This story is about what happens when that worry becomes very, very real.
Every big, complex plot starts with one move. And in this case, it didn't start with a bang or some grand declaration. No, it started with the cold, brutal, and frankly perfect execution of a crime.
It all went down in the Utah desert, and it was just clinical, like a military operation, not a simple robbery. A hired crew uses this gruesome decoy, a flaming steer, to stop a secret government train. They neutralize all the guards, grab 2 very specific canisters, and then, poof, they're gone, airlifted out by helicopter into the night. The whole thing was flawless, which, believe it or not, was the first major red flag.
I mean, how could it be so perfect? Well, it turns out they had an unbelievable amount of inside info. They knew the train's exact speed, its secret route, which was supposed to be protected by an unbreakable code, and even how to shut down the track sensors to cover their tracks. This wasn't just a heist, it was a catastrophic intelligence failure.
So, all that violence, all that planning, all that insider knowledge, for 2 canisters? You have to ask yourself, what in the world could be inside them to justify all this? Well, the answer is kind of elegant and absolutely terrifying. The whole plot boils down to this one simple, powerful concept. Binary. A system where you have 2 separate things that on their own don't do much. But when you put them together, they create something incredibly powerful. And in this case, we're not talking about computer code. We're talking about chemicals.
On their own, the stuff inside these canisters, one yellow, one black, was totally harmless. You could carry it around, store it, no problem. They were basically inert.
But the second you mix them, everything changes. They react and become something else entirely, a nerve gas called ZV, one of the deadliest chemical weapons ever designed, a weapon of mass destruction in 2 easy-to-carry parts. And to give you an idea of just how nasty this stuff is, the lethal dose is 1/10 of a milligram, a tiny, almost invisible droplet on your skin, and you're gone in less than 2 minutes. And these guys didn't steal a little vial. They got away with half a ton of it.
Okay, so that brings us to the biggest question of all. You don't steal a weapon like this for money. You steal it for a reason. And to understand that reason, we have to get inside the head of the guy who planned it all.
Meet John Wright. Now, on the surface, he's a rich, brilliant mathematician. But if you listen to his own words, you hear what's really going on underneath. He's a man who is just consumed by this feeling of being powerless. He sees the whole modern world as one giant, inescapable trap. And when you look at his profile, man, it's a recipe for disaster. He's got the brains of a mathematician, the risk-taking of a gambler, and a history of serious mental instability, all centered around this feeling of impotence. And after his political ambitions totally fizzled out, he took all that anger and brilliance and channeled it into studying the exact sciences you need to deploy a chemical weapon.
So the government is scrambling, right? They're in full-blown panic mode. So they send in their top investigator, a guy named John Graves, to hunt Wright down. But this isn't going to be some simple manhunt. Oh no. Wright has designed this entire crisis as a game, and he specifically chose Graves to be the star player.
So, put yourself in Graves' shoes for a second. How on earth do you beat an opponent who seems to know exactly what you're going to do before you even do it?
The short answer is you can't. The whole game is rigged from the very beginning. See, Wright used an accomplice to hack into classified government files and pull John Graves' entire psychological profile. He wasn't just planning an attack. He was studying the man they would send to stop him. And what did he find in that file? The perfect opponent. Graves wasn't just competitive. He had this win-at-all-costs mentality. He was impulsive, he needed to end things fast, and, this is the real kicker, he had a tendency to declare victory when a problem was only half solved. Wright had found his opponent's operating system, and he was about to exploit every single bug. So this all builds to the final confrontation. Wright sets up this incredibly elaborate trap, but it's not just built with wires and explosives.
No, it's built with Graves' own psychology as the trigger.
Now, Graves only survives because, at the last second, he realizes he's being played. Wright expects him to impulsively charge through the booby-trapped front door. So Graves goes against every single one of his instincts. He takes the most insane direct route possible. He rappels down the side of a skyscraper and crashes right through the window. He disarms the nerve gas trigger with just seconds to spare. He beats the game. He wins. Or so it seems.
Because here is the story's final, absolutely devastating punchline. Afterwards, a top-level security panel gets together. They analyze how this whole disaster almost happened. They write up a list of urgent recommendations to fix the system so it never happens again. And then, according to this official report, the system decides to do absolutely nothing.
And that leaves us with the story's real and really unsettling question. Yeah, John Wright was a brilliant, dangerous mastermind, but the biggest threat wasn't his plan. It was the institutional laziness, the bureaucratic paralysis that let the threat exist in the first place and then did nothing to stop it from happening again. It suggests the most dangerous enemy we face might not be the one setting the trap, but the one who refuses to learn from it.